Hello everyone, my name is Rachel Barrett. I'm on the MSc Counselling course, and this is my dissertation. The title is Pole Positive, Exploring the Relationship between Pole Fitness Level, Resilience, and Experience of Bodily Embodiment Scores in Pole Fitness Practitioners. Why pole fitness? Prior to this dissertation selection, I had only been to one taste session of pole fitness, which was the University Society, and that was prior to the pandemic. However, I've always been a sporty person. I've also struggled quite badly with body image issues growing up, and I now practice yoga most days, which I do think helps me stay grounded. Seeing this dissertation incorporates that element of embodiment with a sport that I was interested to learn more about, it had me intrigued. Also, when debating between topics and telling my mum which ones I was debating between, I immediately sensed the prejudice response back, which only made me want to research it more. So a few key terms going into this presentation. The first one being pole fitness. So in the literature, it does use variation of names such as pole sport, pole fit, pole dance, or just pole. And they all incorporate the sport which merges dance and acrobatics with a vertical pole, which can be climbed, spun from, hung off, flipped onto, and inverted on. It combines artistic dance, acrobats, with strength exercises, which help improve a practitioner's strength, flexibility, and endurance. Bodily embodiment is the second term. It's one of our dependent variables. It's about your experience in your body that makes an internal experience. So your body is the subject, not the object. It's about how the mind-body connection exists, asking what can my body achieve and how does it feel, rather than the focus on its appearance. The third one being resilience. That's another dependent variable we have. Resilience refers to the adaptability of a person to successfully adapt to adverse experiences while maintaining psychological well-being in the face of this adversity. It's the ability to bounce back from difficult experiences. It's not a trait that people have or don't have. Everyone is resilient. It just depends how resilient. So look at the more recent growth and history. Now, if we're looking at pole dance, that's existed for many centuries and actually originated as circus performers used to use the central pole to dance around as a form of entertainment. Pole fitness, however, in the 1980s, dancers began incorporating more gymnastic moves, and it started to become recognised as a good form of fitness. In the 1990s, pole began being taught as the form of exercise and artistic expression that it was. Some dedicated centres started opening for practitioners to train and socialise together. In the early 2000s, pole competitions began popping up all over the globe. Classes were accessible to all ages and abilities, as pole grew exponentially around this period. In 2009, the International Pole Sports Federation was founded, the logo of which is on the right-hand side. So in the 2010s, the first World Pole Sports Championships took place. That was in 2012. Following that, in 2017, the Global Association of International Sports Federation granted pole observer status. This means that it was now a recognised sport. And following this, there is some thought of Olympic status. They are hoping to become an Olympic sport. So let's have a look and quote some previous research. Firstly, we have a quote from an article by Gomez Ramirez from 2007, just as pole fitness started becoming an up-and-coming event. So, the quote is, "The pole as a dancing prop with phallic connotations is forged into a fitness tool and a piece of workout equipment." It's true, the pole is used as a fitness tool and piece of workout equipment. I think the fact that this subjective note of phallic connotations is something very Freudian and unnecessary and very judgmental. This is a published article. However, I don't see many published articles quoting the phallic connotations of, say, a baseball bat or a croquet mallet. I think it's unnecessary and, quite frankly, harmful to pole fitness as a brand. Next, we have a qualitative and empirical article by Kim et al. 2020. It's about a group of South Korean women who engage in pole fitness. Pole dancing as a leisure activity is a creative medium that embodies a central role in the participants' lives. It fosters social support, improves physical health and self-confidence, while providing feelings of enjoyment and happiness by cultivating a sense of body appreciation and acceptance. Now, this took interviews, which made it a qualitative analysis, but it used real people, not just opinions. Thirdly, we have another more opinion-based piece by Weaving 2020, so more recent. But the quote is, "We cannot divorce pole sport from the stripping culture of exotic and erotic sexual connotations. It argues that we as a society could never separate pole fitness as this elegant, incredibly difficult sport that it is, separating that from the stripping culture that still exists. It's very judgmental and actually out of the prejudiced. I argue that we as society are more evolved than that, and we can separate them. Some people just refuse to see that. They're holding on to these prejudices." Lastly, we have another piece of empirical research. This was a qualitative analysis from Dimler 2015. The research looked at pole fitness and suggested that women can maintain a positive body image. It looked at women who are recovering from eating disorders. One in particular that suffered from body dysmorphia and used pole fitness as an avenue to aid in her recovery. So the two in blue are both empirical research. This is what our dissertation aimed to follow in the footsteps of. However, we instead used quantitative analysis rather than just interviews, which we thought could be more valuable and allow us to gain more participants. There were two hypotheses going into this dissertation. Firstly, the higher the ability level of the pole practitioner, the higher their resilience scores will be. And secondly, the higher the ability of the pole practitioner, the higher their experience of embodiment scores will be. So that's suggesting there's a positive correlation. Our target population was people over the 18 who were about to engage in a pole fitness course lasting at least 4 weeks. We used a volunteer sampling method. This consisted of flyers, social media posts, and through word of mouth. The flyers look like the one we have on the right. Our participants ended up being between the age of 18 to 65, so quite a big age range. We had 66 participants in total at a 100% female demographic. Their pole ability range was between never done pole before, beginner, intermediate, higher intermediate, and advanced level. Continuing on with some more methods, we have the measures. So for resilience, we used the Resilience Evaluation Scale, or the ERS, by Vandermeer et al. 2018. This was quite a short 9-item Likert scale, consisted of questions such as I am confident, which participants would answer on a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from they completely disagree to they completely agree, or they prefer not to answer. The embodiment measures, we use the Experience of Embodiment Scale, or the EES, by Piran et al. From 2020. This was a much longer, a 34-item scale, which consisted of questions such as, or statements such as, I feel in tune with my body. Some of these required reversing, such as, my body reduces my sense of self-worth in the world. Again answered on the same 5-point Likert scale, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree, or if participants decided they would prefer not to answer these questions. So more interestingly, on to the results section. We had a total of 65 data sets, which are then split into 5 different groups. This meant that we could compare them based on their pole fitness ability. So in the Never Done Pole Fitness Before category, we had 12 participants, which represented 18.5% of the sample. In our advanced group at the other end, we only had 5 participants, which only represented 7.7%. In the higher intermediate category, we had 11. In the intermediate, we had 19, and the beginner category, we had 18. So the beginner and intermediate categories were both the dominant categories for our sample. Now onto some graphs. So in our resilience section, the high and intermediate level was significantly higher than the never before group and the beginner group. The intermediate group was also significantly higher than the never before group. You can see a consistent upscale on the graph. And for embodiment, the higher intermediate mean scores were also significantly higher than both the never before group and the beginner group. This was the same for the intermediate group, significantly higher than the beginner group and the never before level participants. The advanced group for both resilience and embodiment did show a small decrease, but was not significant. I'll investigate this further. Before I discuss, I'll do a quick hypothesis check. So the findings that both resilience and embodiment increased significantly when comparing the never before group and the beginner group to both the intermediate group and the higher intermediate group. This supports the hypothesis that as participants' experience and level of pole fitness increases, so does their resilience and embodiment. However, this slight decrease that we had from the advanced group, which happened in both the different variables, was unexpected and wasn't in line with the hypothesis. So let's discuss embodiment and eating disorders. So both eating disorders and body dysmorphia can be seen at an all-time high. Social media and filtering, especially with Instagram and Snapchat, using filters over our face and over our body, all this editing has added to this problem and fueling the crisis for the next generation. Current treatment programs aim to improve a person's relationship with their body or improve their embodiment levels. They also aim to build resilience. New methods have even found yoga to have a positive impact on reducing this relapse, aim to keep people grounded. So I find this quite interesting, as pole fitness actually has many elements of yoga incorporated, as well as improving their flexibility. It's used in the pole moves, in the warm-ups, in the cool-downs. That breath work is very useful in pole fitness. Our research supports a plethora of others that suggest that pole fitness improves people's embodiments and resilience in the practitioners. These are elements which are vital in eating disorder recovery. So, could pole fitness be the same as yoga, in that it can be a beneficial intervention in eating disorder recovery, teaching its members to focus on what their body can achieve, how it feels, in order to overcome these challenges. So why did we have this decrease in the advanced group? So there is only 5 participants in this group, which represents a very small sample of the overall participants. So it could be this is an anomaly, and it could be that these participants were just struggling more than the others at this time. We're not fully sure. That's why more research is needed. However, these findings are consistent with research looking at higher level athletes and this additional anxiety and even depression that comes with it. There is research to suggest the extra pressure, expectation, and the increased risk of injury does add to this anxiety and depression, which could add to the lower levels of resilience and lower levels of embodiment that we saw in our research. This is found to be particularly prominent in strength-based sports, and pole fitness is definitely one of these. I believe that further research should look at practitioners at this level, as not much research has been focused on advanced pole sports practitioners. Often for sports people at this higher and advanced level, that extra physical and mental support is available, especially when they're looking at that Olympic standard. Pole, however, is a newer sport, and the same support might be lacking at this advanced level. This research, I may have had my own prejudgments, but that quickly changed when I began researching and when I actually tried and learned just how difficult these effortless moves are to pull off. In counselling, we receive referral forms when we have clients about their details. If we made snap judgments without opening our minds and checking this prejudice, we might not get very far or be able to build a good rapport with that client. Therefore, it's so important to check our prejudice. I believe that we should keep striving for high standard empirical research into pole fitness. So much more is needed. We need to fight back against critics who argue, such as Weaving, that pole fitness is anti-feminist or encourages promiscuity. However, there's no empirical evidence behind this comment. Is really important when it comes to research. So this research was meant to be an intervention study, which required participants to complete this questionnaire both before and after a 4-week pole fitness course, whether it be a beginner course, an intermediate course, a higher intermediate course, or an advanced course. However, only a couple of participants actually completed the after questionnaire. Luckily, we had plenty of the initial questionnaires to get off, comparing the initial pole level with their resilience and embodiment scores. I would, however, like to see a future study that successfully achieves this intervention study, or perhaps even at a longitudinal level. Watching my pole fitness presentation, I will now open up to questions.